Hey everyone, my name is Drake, and this is the third episode of Drake Martinez podcast, where we talk about all things music, current events, politics, things that are happening in the world, music history in general. So far, the first two episodes have been pretty much about music and musicianship, and a little bit about like myself, things that I've done in my life in music, and things that I'd recommend, and just that sort of stuff. But I think today we're going to take a little bit of a deviation from that and talk about the history of music, and not like a boring kind of like, Baroque period kind of stuff or like classical period. Although that music is beautiful and I love it. I love all kinds of music, but just something I'm not an expert on, so I'm not going to really like talk about it that much. But one of the things I do want to talk about is the perception or a conversation around this idea that like contemporary music sucks or it's not very good. And I'd have to agree. Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'd say that contemporary music is not very good. But that doesn't mean that contemporary music is not good at all. It just means I think that the music that gets pushed to the mass audience or like in general audience is not very good. Now I think that there's a couple reasons for that. One, the general audience is just like doesn't really want to listen to more complex music. Okay. Two, times have changed. And the general audience, their attention isn't really all that great in comparison to previous generations. And this isn't just the music industry. You can see this in movies. If you ever, I noticed this when I was watching the movie Heat. I think it's like, pretty sure it's Heat. It's like Al Pacino, Val Kilmer, and like maybe even like Robert De Niro, I think, is in the movie. And if you watch the movie moves at like a snail's pace. And in the world of like today, where we have shorts and TikTok 30-second, 60-second, like 3-minute videos, and all that, where people can't sit through like a 3-hour movie anymore, which is weird because they can sit through like 16 hours of a show, right? They can just binge watch it. But I think that like elevates the point, is that the show might be like 20 minutes and they can just watch a ton of them because like the cliffhanger at the end hooks them to the next one, right? But if they were just watching that as like a movie that was like 10 hours, then like they wouldn't be able to do it. And I think a lot of that is like just based off of like our society's like falling, I'd say IQ, attention span, and then I think also just appreciation for music. Because back in the day, bro, like you'd have to like go find the music, You'd have to like I didn't listen to Jimi Hendrix when I was growing up. I couldn't. You'd have to like go to the store and like go find like the CD, or like the vinyl, or like the cassette tape, and then sometimes you just couldn't find it. These stores had limited spaces, and what changed the game was Napster. And I don't know if anybody remembers Napster. I'm sure some people do, maybe some people don't. But Napster was the first one. And Napster changed the game because people could share files. And for the first time, you could just you could just grab whatever music you wanted to, download it for free, which is not cool, but that was a thing. And then that got replaced with like Morpheus, Kazaa, LimeWire was another one, I'm pretty sure. And these were all like upload, I guess, like share file kind of things. I don't know exactly how they work, but like you basically could just like type in like Metallica Orion and find Metallica's Orion, Now, streaming services work like the total opposite, but it's the same effect. You can listen to whatever you want, but the artists get credit because they've uploaded, and now they get royalties based off of like what people are listening to when people listen to their music, which is great. But Napster and all that, and like these uploading services were not that at all. Like musicians were getting ripped off. Like their music was getting stolen, which is not cool. But all that changed the game. Whereas now, like you have like your playlist, or you might get exposed to new artists. You know, but generally, it just kind of like keeps you in the same lane. It keeps you like what you've been listening to in the past, and you might have like listened to like a new song or a new artist lately that like a friend has brought to your attention. Like, hey, bro, I've been really listening to this new band, but there's I'm not gonna say that there's not a lot of ways to listen to new music or to find new music. There are, but streaming services tend to kind of keep you in your lane. Same thing with YouTube. Same thing with a lot of like social media. Oh, this person likes this. Let's just keep giving them more of that. Like, why are they gonna risk it? It's like the same way that it works. Like when you go to a restaurant that you've been to many times. You know, maybe like one time out of 10, you go there. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna try something new. But 9 times out of 10, you're gonna kind of go with like what in the past has like really satisfied you because time and money are very valuable things, right? And your appetite is also a very valuable thing. And like, why would you waste it? Same thing with your time and energy when it comes to music. I know for me, I'm really bad at that. There's like a few groups that I've been listening to for years, and if I find a new group, I'm like, yes, that's awesome because it's been a really long time. And if anybody cares, my favorite groups that like I listen to on the regular are Lettuce, Minus the Bear, Bob Marley and the Wailers, the Meters, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Metallica, Tool, and that's like pretty much it. Oh, Weather Report and Fearless Flyers and Snarky Puppy. And I really like Mark Lettieri also. Like those are like my favorite artists. I listen to um very very regularly, and very rarely will I listen to anybody else, which is like not cool. I mean like I should be listening. Oh, I also listen to like Tribal Seeds, but I've in the past I used to listen to a lot of different bands, a lot, and a lot of different types like styles of music. And over the years, it's kind of just like crystallized into like that, just like handful. Oh, and then also like Buena Vista Social Club. So I as I go on, I can like name more and more. But you get my point. Like those are the people that I listen to very very often. And I'd say that like going back to the main point, which is like that modern music sucks. Modern music sucks in the sense that like personally, I think trap music sucks. I think that it kind of just like follows like the same like rhythmic like hi-hat kind of thing that they like to do, and then like I guess like what people call like mumble rap, like, but I think it's kind of cool. Like they're like kind of rapping, like kind of singing, and they kind of like have like a unique flow. I'm not gonna hate on them too much, but I just think it's like it's overdone, you know. But it's popular for a reason, and again, it goes back to that principle of like, are you gonna order that like funky looking salad or that funky looking burger on the menu, like when you know that you're gonna get satisfaction from the bacon cheeseburger? 9 times out of 10, no. So that's just kind of like how our industry works. That's kind of like how our minds work in general. Is we go with what's comfortable. It's the same thing with artists. If they're trying something new, that's that 1 out of 10 times that you try something new on the menu. And that's cool. We should be celebrating that, but that's not everybody. And I think most of the music these days does suck, but I think that there's a lot of hope. I think that we went through a period of time where like it all just became kind of cookie cutter, and it was just like it's always been like that if you think about it. Like in the night, like there's always like the contemporary generation that's like into the new music, and then like they're the older generations are like, this music sucks. But I wonder, just like from an objective standpoint, if people that were the previous generation going into the 70s and the 60s could really justifiably say that that music sucked, because it didn't. Like, what were they thinking when Led Zeppelin came out and Queen? I guess they were thinking, I guess, like, instead of saying that it sucked, they said that it was like Satan's music, or that it was like music for the devil or stuff like that. It was like the best thing that they could say, because like the previous generation, they were listening to like, like a kind of like, that music was also kind of cool though from that era. But music goes through so many different evolutions and so many different changes from generation to generation, and there's always so much hate from the next generation on. But when we look back at it, we always look back at the previous things that had happened, although people hated on it, with a sort of like nostalgia and and appreciation. I know that happens a lot for 90s music now, but 90s music is also kind of like music from like the 70s, where it's like, dude, did people really think that that music sucked back then, that were like, that was their new generation, or like the previous generation rather? Like, I mean, maybe they did, because like they were listening to stuff in the 70s, and now like, yeah, they had like Nirvana and like Soundgarden and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and but they must have like objectively thought that music from the 80s sucked, because it kind of did, with the exception of like bands like Duran Duran and like, you know, a few others, like maybe like Depeche Mode, at least for me. But that's how things go now. But what strikes me is that every now and then, even in today's um environment where like the music kind of sucks, at least the popular music kind of sucks, is that they usually come out, like, there's always like every now and then where like a really good song will come out. And I think that's been happening like more and more lately, which leads me to think that like maybe with like streaming services and um a sort of like generational gap, that we might be going through a period where like music is about to pick up again. A couple of songs that like give me that kind of hope, that give me that hope, is, I don't remember the name of the song, but it's like that Dua Lipa song that's like, "Don't walk out, don't start caring about me now. If you don't wanna see me dancing with somebody." It has that really nice bass line that's like, boom dum boom dum boom dum dum boom dum boom dum boom 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 boom. But it also has like a really great orchestration and like arrangement, that whoever did that song, like the producer or like the songwriters, they really did a great job of like adding new elements that really drove the song to new places. And she does a great job of like highlighting those differences and making the listener focus on those changes. And music in general is a dance between change and consistency, where it can't all be change, right? But it all can't be consistent. If it's too much change, there's not enough for the listener to latch onto. But if there's too much change, then, or if there's not enough change rather, then it becomes redundant and boring. Another song that makes me think of that is also a song that has a really great bass line, which is the Miley Cyrus "Flowers" song. It's a really good song. Is it one of my? It's not one of my favorites, but objectively speaking, it's a good song, because the bass has a really nice driving part, and she has like really good like vocals that match it. The lyrics are kind of weird. She kind of sounds like a psycho. But you know what? Lyrics are lyrics, and not all musicians take their, like, just be, to be real, not a lot of musicians take their lyrics that seriously. They might be focused more on melody. I know that was the case with Kurt Cobain. He never really paid too much attention to his vocal or to his lyrics, according to his writings. He paid a lot more attention to his melody. Where if you listen to songs like "Smells Like Teen Spirit" and a lot of his songs, you really hear that driving, haunting melody. and his lyrics are kind of like nonsense. You know, it's sometimes it's hard to get a good melody to match what lyrics work with that melody, if that makes sense. It depends on your like your writing, your songwriting style. But yeah, going back to the main topic, does music today suck? Kinda, but you know what? While people thought music sucked, Minus the Bear was a great band, that a great prolific band that accomplished so much, and some of like the greatest songs that I've ever heard. You know, I've listened to a lot of music, and Minus the Bear like really came out with amazing music in the last 20 years, a period in which a lot of people say like music sucked. You know, same thing with Lettuce. Lettuce is a contemporary band, still making albums right now. Their music's amazing. Also making music during an era in which people would say, including myself, that mainstream music sucks. You know, it's not great. You know, but maybe mainstream music has kind of always sucked, and that's kind of the point. You know, some of it's a good, some of it's a hit or miss, and then, but you know, going again, there are some like a lot of like generational changes. Like again, like the 70s was pretty good, 80s sucked, 90s were good. You know, early 2000s kind of sucked, 2010 and 20s like who knows where like music's gonna go. But I think that's it for today. I think it's a pretty good discussion. What do you guys think? Does music nowadays suck? And who are you guys listening to? Let me in on some new music because I could really use it. You know, like I said, I've been listening to the same people for a while. I'm kind of like that dude at the menu that's like, you know what, man? I've been eating the Hawaiian burger for many years now. It's a good burger. Why risk, the Kamehameha burger? You know, shout out to Teddy's Burger over in Hawaii. If anybody out there in Hawaii, I don't know, man, but I just thought of Teddy's Burger right now. I'm getting kind of hungry. It's pretty late where I'm at, and I could really go for a Teddy's Burger, but I'm in California, so there's an ocean dividing me and Honolulu from a Teddy's right now. But I love y'all out there. Thank you for listening. Follow me on the socials. It's at Drake Martinez Music on YouTube, Drake Martinez Music on Facebook and Instagram. And then I got the album Fujiwara Effect. My favorite song on there is Foosball in Mexico. And it's by my band The Water Bear. Check that out. Give it a listen. And I love you guys. Thank you for so much for tuning in. And excuse me. I think next week we're going to talk a little bit about some, so I'm actually like kind of like not able to talk a lot about politics. I'm not able to talk about the politics that I want to talk about because I'm active duty. So what I will talk about, I think, is to get into a lot of how I think politics affects music, and we kind of like got into a little bit of that today, where things with like the general audience. Last thing actually I'll say about that is people like to hate on music that's popular, but what they should consider is what makes music popular. So what makes Ed Sheeran's music, like, although it's not as amazingly musically orchestrated as Tool or Megadeth, what makes his music so accessible to the masses? Think about that. Could you make music like that? Could you make a song like her shape of her body? I'm in love with the shape of you. Whatever that song was by Ed Sheeran. I'm pretty sure it was Ed Sheeran. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't really know. But I'm pretty sure that dude has he's tapped into like a new, like a almost like a secret pathway to making his music accessible to so many people, which is an amazing gift in and of itself. It's about as amazing of a gift as it is to write a song as musically complex as a Tool or Megadeth song. that varies throughout the years. Like you had like guys like Elton John who can write songs that just not only appeal to the general mass, like the general audience, but also withstand the test of time. Yeah, so I'm gonna stop talking about this for now, and stay tuned for next week's episode. I'm not really sure what the topic's gonna be, but I think it's gonna be something about, maybe about how like modern society affects music, maybe a little bit of AI, and then maybe a little bit of little drama for you guys out there. Again, thank you guys. Love you guys for tuning in. Give me a follow. Give me a like. Let me know what you guys like, what you guys doing about the podcast. And I look forward to continuing this with you. Thanks again. This is Drake signing out for the Drake Martinez Podcast. Peace.